The Ford Ranger has been the staple of the midsize pickup truck segment for years now. However, the highly anticipated recent redesign of the Ranger hasn't been as well received as Ford hoped for, especially compared to its peers. It's still a good truck, however, there are a few weak points that left quite a bitter taste in our mouths. In today's video, we'll be explaining why the Blue Oval's midsize pickup under-delivers as we look at 6 reasons why you should not buy the Ford Ranger. Number 6. Subpar reliability. Although we love Ford, we can't help but criticize them for their mediocre reliability records that have been plaguing the company's models for years now. The Ford Ranger is arguably one of the best examples of this, as it has been plagued with countless issues for years now. The engine of the Ranger has been known to tap out at the most inconvenient of places. This was at best incredibly irritating, or at worst extremely dangerous, which is why most owners were left disappointed with the Rangers. The newest model sets out to fix this by offering a wide array of more modern engines. However, we're not sure if Ford will manage to succeed at their plan of making the Ranger better. Why? Well, it's not just the reliability that needs sorting, as Ford's quality control is also extremely subpar. Ever since Ford started focusing all their attention on mass-producing their vehicles as much as possible, the build quality all across the range went down. For example, the 2023 Ford Ranger's windshield has been known to fall off the car while driving. Do you even understand how drastic of a problem this is? Ford didn't use the right adhesive, which is just unbelievable, as more than 24,000 trucks needed to be recalled because of this issue. Oh, and let's not forget about the issues that the Maverick and Escape have been facing due to low quality control, such as cracking engine blocks, leading to the car potentially going up in flames. It's one thing to skimp out on quality a little, however, Ford has been making their vehicles into safety hazards, which honestly is not cool. Number 5. Outdated styling. One of the biggest downsides of the Ford Ranger is how mind-numbingly dull it looks. Seriously. Apart from the headlight design, the previous generation and the current one look quite strikingly akin to one another, that you wouldn't be at fault for thinking that this is all just the same generation but facelifted. The lack of any kind of design finesse is amplified even more when you put the Ford Ranger neck to neck with its rivals, all of which look much more interesting than the Blue Oval's offering. For example, the recently redesigned GMC Canyon and Chevrolet Colorado look far more muscular, modern, and rugged than the Ranger, which just looks like a basic generic pickup truck compared to them. Some might think that these two are a bit over-designed, but the new Toyota Tacoma also offers a much more interesting and meatier exterior compared to the Ranger without feeling overdone. Even the Nissan Frontier manages to beat the Ranger at its own game, as despite retaining a classic pickup truck shape, it offers quirky retro design details that make it stand out from the crowd. It's a shame really, as Ford should have and could have done so much with the Ranger's design, and they instead decided to play it safe. However, the exterior isn't the end of the Ford Ranger's nightmares. Number 4. Interior quality and comfort. Again, the Ford Ranger seems to have been quite lacking compared to its peers in terms of interior quality as well as general comfort. The previous generations of the Ranger almost exclusively relied on hard plastics, basic seats, and lackluster technology, making the truck much less desirable than the likes of the Colorado or the Tacoma. Oh, and don't get us started on interior space. The Rangers of old were unbelievably cramped, especially at the back, and buying one for carrying people would have been one of the worst ideas a person could have. The new model sets out to fix these issues though, as it is said to have more soft-touch materials on the inside, as well as offering more legroom to the rear passengers, allowing the truck to be a more versatile vehicle than it is now. That said, the interior still looks duller than a broken sandwich, but at least it seems to be much more functional and intuitive than the previous generation. That said, despite improving the interior, a thing that Ford won't do is fix the comfort of the car. Sure, they're doing their best to make the car ride less like a spine grinder and more like a proper vehicle. However, the fact that it still relies on extremely outdated leaf springs makes us doubt that it will be a massive improvement, which is disappointing, especially since most of its rivals gave considerable thought to comfort. Number 3. Mediocre off-road performance. Okay, let us be the first to say that the Ford Ranger isn't a bad off-roader. We'd say that it's pretty okay, and if off-roading isn't your focus, then you'll be perfectly fine with it. However, truth be told, its outdated underpinnings and technical solutions have arguably started showing their age and inferiority compared to the more modern trucks of this segment. For example, the Colorado and the Canyon both offer better off-road capabilities, especially with the lower trim levels. Sure, the top-of-the-range off-roader-oriented versions are pretty neck-to-neck, however, most people won't be going for those. Let's not even get Jeep involved, as the Gladiator will annihilate the Ranger off-road. off-road. However, credit where credit's due, the Ranger is a better off-roader than the Nissan Frontier and the Honda Ridgeline, albeit the latter is a unibody truck, so you shouldn't expect much from it anyway. It's also pretty comparable to the venerable Toyota Tacoma, albeit we're yet to see the TRD Pro version of that car see the light of day. Still, we were expecting more from Ford in this regard. Number 2. Better alternatives to the Ranger. Now, before we say anything, we have to admit that what cannot be taken away from the Ranger is its wide palette of engines. The truck comes with a wide array of inline-4 engines and V6s, and even a top-of-the-range twin-turbo 3.0 V6 borrowed from the F-150 that pushes out upwards of 400 horsepower. However, apart from this, the Ranger doesn't stand out from the crowd in any other way, and we're sorry to say it, but in this day and age, there are simply better alternatives to the Ranger. The Colorado and Canyon are much more stylish and are better built. The Frontier is cheaper than it, and the Gladiator is miles better off-road. That said, the Ranger still excels at being a good all-rounder, as despite not being the best in every single category, it's still pretty consistently good in all of them. Well, unfortunately for it, another kid in the block seems to have beaten the Ranger to a pulp in terms of being the jack of all trades. We are, of course, talking about the Toyota Tacoma. You see, this domination started with the previous generation Toyota Tacoma, which offered everything that the Ranger did, and even more, only in a more stylish and more dependable package. The newest generation of the Tacoma also beats out the Ranger in virtually every way, shape, or form. It's a much more dependable car than the Ranger. It offers a much more interesting and arguably better built interior, while also being much more composed on the road and, unbelievably, more comfortable too. Not to mention that once the TRD Pro hits the market, it'll also be miles ahead of the Ranger in terms of its off-road qualities. But the Tacoma isn't even the biggest rival that the Ford Ranger fights against, which leads us to the final point of our video. Number 1. The Maverick exists. What, in our opinion, seems to be the nail in the coffin for the Ford Ranger isn't its competition. It's the other blue oval pickup truck that is currently Ford's go-to breadwinner. The Maverick has truly made the Ford Ranger redundant, as for far less money than the Ranger, you'll be getting a truck with most of its capabilities. The Maverick offers a roomy bed and much better gas mileage, and it is similarly well-equipped as the Ranger. Sure, you won't be getting a high-quality interior and the car won't be quite as good off-road, nor will it be nearly as powerful. However, its unibody platform will allow it to be much more composed around bends, while also being more comfortable than its larger brother. Plus, most people bought the Ranger because the F-150 was simply far too large and expensive for them. The Maverick therefore represents both better value for money for them, as well as caving into their general desires and needs. The Ford Ranger isn't the only truck that the Maverick has deemed redundant. However, it is by far the one that suffered the most since its release. The truth is that the Ranger now occupies a weird middle ground between the F-150 and the Maverick, both of which seem to keep eating into the Ranger's target audience. If any of these factors are things you want to avoid for your next pickup purchase, it would be a good idea to look elsewhere. And that's all for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.